Hello and welcome to another edition of Who Are We? It is May 17, 2019. My name is Jonathan Konsunji, and I'm the creator of Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Now. The acronym is EDIN! This is a people advocacy group currently stationed in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which main focus is to educate and promote awareness and understanding of the many citizens we live with every day. Whether it be your neighbor, your relative, friend, or acquaintance, everyone is different, and we have to cherish and celebrate who you are and give your voice as well. I am also your host for today. Joining me on this journey, I have Michael Grandsoult. I met him around 2015 through my cousin's friend at a yearly event, and we stayed connected. Getting to know him, I see that he strives for excellence wherever he goes, and he wants to make a difference in people's lives. Straight up. Whether it would be his day job or passion, which he will talk about, he understands that success does not come easy and hard work pays off. I'm tremendously excited to have him as one of our featured guests. So Michael, let's get to know you. So tell us about yourself. As they say, what's the 411?
Cool. Well, my name is Michael Anthony Grandsoult, PKA, poetically known as MikeAll. I would define myself as a hip-hop educator, poetic MC from the true school pedigree. From time when I was young, I had an ability to put words together through poetry, and I try to use that to, diffuse or spread a message of positivity and love. Just taking it back to the foundation of hip-hop, each one reach one, teach one. And I am a teacher by day. I do teach grade 8 with the TCDSB, Toronto Catholic District School Board. In the classroom, I also try to use my poetry, hip-hop culture to make those bridges and connections and try to pass some knowledge. So you can look at me as an edu-tainer, try to bring some educational entertainment.
Yeah.
But number one, I'm just, a youth grew up in Scarborough, being exposed to many different cultures, and just trying to, reflect myself to the fullest and truest.
Okay. Or what are your ethnic origins? Did you identify yourself as African Canadian or Caribbean Canadian or other?
Cool. So I was born in Canada, born in Scarborough, Ontario, born and raised, first in my family. My parents came from Guyana, and I guess I would identify myself as an Afro-Caribbean Canadian. My parents are mostly an Afro-Caribbean mix. In our hip-hop crew, we had a subgroup called GBC, Guyana Bus Crew, or Guyanese Blooded Canadians. So it's just, Canada is like the pot where the ingredients were put together, and the ingredients came from Guyana, so Guyanese Blooded Canadian. Like most people in Toronto, we're of diverse backgrounds, and that's what makes Toronto such a strong place, because we are so enriched by many different cultures.
That's great, thanks. And tell me, how was it like growing up? How did you stay connected to your culture?
Cool, so definitely through parents. I have a poem called GBC, where I kind of explore culture. I won't say the whole poem, but I'll share a line or two with you. Folklore, fork loads of food, musical milieu, culture's much more. My exotics whitewash lost before I ever got it. So folklore, fork loads of food, musical milieu. So food was like a main way of culture being passed, whether it's mom's cooking, granny's cooking, auntie's cooking, that West Indian cuisine. Folklore, hearing stories about my parents' childhood and the way that they grew up. And musical milieu. Music was a main way that the culture was disseminated or spread. Basically, we knew it was summertime when I'd be hanging out with him, alternate weekends or whatnot. Summertime when he'd be playing calypso and soca music during Caravana. So mostly it was trickled down from my parents. But because I didn't grow up in Guyana and live in Guyana, there's a little bit of a disconnect. My lived experience is Canadian. But then again, on that other hand, when certain other Canadians see you, and because of how you look, they're like, yo, you're not really Canadian. But then again, there's the disconnect with Guyana, since I didn't grow up and live there, so it's like you're kind of in this little limbo in-between place. But that was basically how my culture was spread through my parents, mom and dad, passing on their stories and music and food.
Cool. And that brings us down to this question is, what is the stereotypes of your community that you can't stand?
True. I guess the number one stereotype I would think about, black males, that were all drug dealers, that were all pimps, that were all misogynistic, hate women, that type of stuff. And because you could have that type of crime perpetrated by any persons, but again, it's just like that. We seem to be the poster boy for that. I never sold drugs. I have some battles with sexism, but for the most part, I'm not like overly misogynistic. I've never been a pimp. So those are the stereotypes that I don't really, appreciate for our culture.
Yeah. And have you dealt with any prejudice or racism in your life because of who you are?
Yes.
And if so, what happened and how did it make you feel?
True. Well, I think like most people of color, we've all, experienced carding. Thankfully, my experiences with police have never been anything too physical where police put their hands on me or, my life felt threatened. But I can give you one example from back in high school. Two other people of color and myself, we were just sitting out, hanging out by a bench that happened to be near a bus stop. We're just sitting there. We didn't have any drugs or anything on us, nothing like that. We're just chilling out. And then some cops show up. Some people behind us started taking off, running, jetting, and that would give me, in my mind, maybe go follow the people who are running, but whatever. So we're just sitting there, and then the cops came to us and said, we need to show them our ID and all this kind of stuff, saying the mayor just decreed some new law that they can just, ask and demand IDs on site. And then they told us, we were trespassing. I later looked into it. That was not the case. The cops were trying to play off like, you can only sit at that bench if you were waiting for the bus. And I looked into it, that was not the case. It's a public bench, anybody could have sat at that bench. So anyway, they're just coming to us saying, show us your ID, we need to see that. And I was like, no, I don't feel the need to show you. I mean, if there's a law, I would like to see that. I don't feel that I'm compelled to do that. I'm not doing anything wrong. And then eventually, I guess they saw that they were going nowhere, so the cops just said, leave, get out of here, that's fine, and we left. The other times where I've experienced prejudice or whatnot was in the education system. 2 occasions where for whatever reason it was perceived that I could not produce the work that I produced. In grade 6 I wrote some poem, and then my teacher, she assumed that I had parental help with it and came to me and said, there's no way you could have written this at 12 years old, your parents had to help you. And just the way that it was an accusatory tone, not asking me, not giving me the benefit of the doubt, but just assuming for whatever reason that I cannot produce that. And fast forward a few years later, probably grade 12, similar situation happened. A teacher, she read my essay and said, you couldn't have written that yourself. If that's the case, you should be writing, your master's in university. Just basically being prejudged for whatever reason, I could not produce the quality work. And I kind of attribute that, whether right or wrong, to my skin color. In their minds, they had this perception that somebody who looked like me couldn't produce the work that I did. So those are the 2 main experiences, carding and lower expectations from teachers in the education system.
Okay, thanks. In your opinion, what makes the world a better place? And what needs to change for all to have equality?
Yeah, good question. I think number one, when people are free to be themselves, to be who they are, that helps make the world a better place because they can tap into their true potential and benefit the world with who they are, full-fledged, not having to hold back. What needs to happen for people to help make the world a better place is be able to be themselves, and with that comes education, knowledge, exposure. A lot of isms are bred out of ignorance. We don't know, and then we assume and come to our own wrong conclusions. But if we actually sat down with each other, ate food, broke bread, we'd see how much we have in common and recognize that our differences don't necessarily have to be negatives. They could be things that make us better, make us stronger. So learning about each other and having that confidence and safe space to be ourselves, I think would make the world a better place. And I think a lot of that also stems from self-love. A lot of times people's outward hatred comes from a lack of self-love, and it's like they're projecting what they feel is missing within their own heart. So knowledge of others and self-love, I think, are some good cures or remedies.
Great. So why do you teach? How did you know that you wanted to go into this profession?
True. It was kind of revealed to me in grade 12 OAC. I'd always been working with youth through my church, youth groups and Sunday schools, stuff like that. But the real path was shown to me like around grade 12. I had signed up, originally I was going to get into creative writing, or actually journalism I should say. And I had signed up to do co-op placement, but co-op conflicted with an OAC course that I had to take. So the guidance counselor suggested I do peer tutoring. So throughout OAC, I was doing peer tutoring, grade 9 drama, and I saw that, there was definitely a need for that with the youth, and I had some ability to connect with the youth and help them on their journey. So that kind of led me towards the path, okay, let me see if I can pursue this as a profession. And Aristotle, he's a theologian and a scholar, he had a famous quote, where your talents and the needs of the world meet, there lies your vocation. That was on the wall in one of my classes in high school, and I was just pondering that quote when I was trying to figure out where I fit in the world. There's definitely a need for that, And I believe I have a talent with connecting with youth and listening, helping them express themselves. So it just, came like a bullseye target for where I was meant to be.
Great. Coming back to what's really important to you, what does Toronto mean to you? And what do you think about Canada's encouragement about diversity?
True. Well, Toronto's like the village, right? A diverse village. You could go to different parts of Toronto and sample culture from all over the place. Everywhere in the world has its little pocket in Toronto. And I think that could be potential if it's fully tapped into. For the most part, Canada is often at the forefront of human rights movements, although we do have our own history of discrimination, past and present, that's going on. We try to sometimes present ourselves as opposite to the States, but in some cases we've been doing similar things, sometimes worse, sometimes at the same level. But there's lots of potential, especially in Toronto, with the diversity that we do have.
Okay. So how do you ensure that your students learn about inclusiveness as well as the LGBTQ2 spirit community?
True. Well, being a Catholic teacher, there's kind of like a little tricky space through which to navigate. Number one, we as educators, our main goal is to promote safety of all students and try to teach mutual respect of everybody. The Catholic Church does have its opinions on sexuality, so there's certain wordings I have to be careful with. But at the same time, the church is making slow progress to not be as discriminatory, if you will, but there's still more growth to go. But I think number one, I just try to help students recognize, check for a person as a person, forget the labels, we're individuals first. And number one, I think sharing my own experiences, because whether it was coming from, a heteronormative, heterosexist Caribbean culture, there's a lot of homophobia in our Caribbean West Indian background. So I've gone through my own journey of getting out of homophobia, getting out of heteronormativity, heterosexism. So one story I like to share with my students I feel is very poignant. Up until around grade 11, I used to very, very loosely use the F word. I won't even say it now because I actually removed that from my vocabulary. But I used to drop that like it was burping, right? Drop it like it was passing gas, very loosely. But then even in class, and then my grade 11 math teacher overheard me saying that and called me out on that and says, that's a very, very hurtful word to use. You shouldn't be using it. Do you even know what it means? And I thought I was all big and bad. I'm like, yeah, I know what it means. It's a cigarette. That's like the English slang, and even also it's a bundle of sticks, firewood. Those are the origins of that word. And then he said, but do you know why they used to call homosexuals that? And that part I didn't know. And he schooled me and showed me it's because they used to burn homosexuals like they were firewood, like they were a bundle of sticks. And when I heard that kind of set off the light bulb in my eyes, in my mind. I'm like, wow, I didn't know the hatred behind that word, and that led me to purposely remove it from my vocabulary. And I think sharing that story, which I share every year when we do our little unit on bullying, because the F word, it does pop up in this text we study. Bully by Dio. Shout out to Dio. He has a great resource you can use to help, show the dangers of bullying. Anyway, so when we study that text, I share that story of my own personal growth and journey. And I think if the students can see that, you were at one point and you learn from it to get to another point, it kind of helps them along their own journey.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thank you.
You are an independent rap artist.
Yes, sir.
Your Torontario song is lyrical greatness.
Thank you.
You gotta hit up YouTube for that. Amazing. How do you feel when you're emceeing or rapping? What is your message?
True. How do I feel when I'm emceeing? That's the ultimate high. That's honestly, I don't mean to be too blunt, but without that, I might want to end my life or not have that purpose. That's the best natural euphoria, whether it's the process of creating the rhymes or actually rocking it on stage, putting it together. It helps give me purpose. What my message is just, tell your story, be you. Unfortunately, the era now, it seems like you get props by copying, mimicking a sound. That wasn't the era we grew up in. Originality was rewarded. If you actually sounded like the next man, you would get booed, you would get, thrown off the stage, whatever. So my message is, be true to you, tell your story, and express your reality, full-fledged without fear. Because there's already so-and-so, there's already this and that, but if you mute your own story, you're robbing the world of hearing another chapter.
For young rappers who want to follow in their dream, what advice do you want to give them about the industry?
Well, truthfully, I wouldn't say I'm the most qualified to speak on the industry per se. I more consider myself like an independent, struggling artist, or whatever you want to call it, that hungry, starving artist. I would try to tell them be themselves, but it seems like the industry doesn't reward that. So I guess I would number one tell them, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a pop artist / entertainer? Do you want to be a pop entertainer, or do you want to be an artist? If you want to be an artist, we can talk all day. I can help you build with that. If you want to be a pop entertainer, there's not much advice I can give you, because those are two different lanes with two different goals. But if you want to be an artist, again, be true to yourself, tell your story, and look at you people around you. Who can you build with? Who can, because you can't do it alone, and you have lots of resources around you. Maybe so-and-so, your friend from elementary school, is a good artist. They can help you with the artwork. So-and-so is good at videography. They can help you with recording, making your videos. But especially in this day and age with, you know, internet, YouTube, all the social media where you can connect directly to fans, I would say tap into that and use your peoples. And again, number one, be true to you.
Awesome. Who or what inspires you in life? What are your career goals or future plans?
True. Life is the greatest inspiration. Every day you can get inspiration to write a song about a good experience, you know. You can get inspiration to get a song from a bad experience, whether your heart got broke or whether this girl liked you or whatever, or even just getting waking up. You know, that in itself is an experience. In terms of my music, my goal is just to try to have the music reach as many people as possible. And beyond that, I would like to publish a book of poetry. I've done my 3 albums. The third one is the MikeAll album, shameless self-promo plug. I'm very, very proud of this, my 3rd solo album, my best album yet. But beyond that, I actually want to get into publishing a book of poems, and or maybe a book about how to use hip-hop, how to use poetry in the classroom to foster students' creativity and or their confidence. Beyond that, in terms of education, I don't really have any goals to go outside of the classroom, but I would like to see if I can expand, you know, hip-hop lessons, maybe become like a resource for using hip-hop in the classroom to connect with you.
Yeah, awesome. So how do people get in contact with you?
True. Well, my artist name is MikeAll, MikeAll. You can Google that. I'm on all the different online social media platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube for music videos. You can get at me through Instagram, MikeAll, MikeAll _hip-hop. Email MikeAllHipHop, MikeAllHiphop @ gmail.com. And you know, I'm open to build with anybody as long as you know they're positive and willing to, you know, be honest and true with who they are.
Awesome. Any closing words or remarks for our people about diversity?
Most def. Well, diversity, look at it as a blessing, not a burden. Look at it as a way to enrich. If our meal was all the same, it would be pretty boring. A rainbow is beautiful because of its many colors, and not just because it's all red or blue or green or whatever. One color is kind of limited, so we want to have that full spectrum. And I would say number one, don't rob the world of who you are. To quote Oscar Wilde, be you, everybody else is taken. And we need to hear everybody's story told so we can get a better perspective of the true human experience. And as always, it's hip-hop, so I like to end with peace, love, unity, and having fun. One love.
It's amazing, man. So Michael or
MikeAll,
I want to personally and tremendously express my gratitude for taking the time to join us on Who Are We?
Who are we?
And supporting me at Eden ! I hope everyone listening and reading has learned something new, and in future support Michael and his community wherever possible. Thanks, Michael, for letting us get to know you.
My pleasure. One love. Be true to you.
Here we go. Please join me next time on another edition of Who Are We, where I will have a brand new guest speaking about who they are. Make sure you stay up to date with us at Eden by checking out the website. Contact info is going to be listed soon. And ensure you follow us on social media with the hashtag EdenNow. We need equality, diversity, and inclusion now. My name is Jonathan Kansanji, and the more you know, the more you grow. And we want to say thank you to Timeri
Shout
Restaurant.
out to Mary's Guyana Canadian Connection.
Guyanese restaurant here in Scarborough, Ontario, in Toronto. And I want to say thanks again, Mike.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us. Good work you're doing, giving a platform for diverse stories. And that is the question, who are we?
That's right. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.
Thanks.